things you mentioned was Tucker's interview with Vladimir Putin. I want to get your opinion about that because I had some mixed opinions. One of the things I did find out during that interview that I was not aware of, I had no idea that Russia tried to join NATO. So that was a surprise to me. I learned a little bit more about Bill Clinton and Bush as well. But I had a little bit mixed reactions. I was glad the interview happened because I did learn some things that obviously mainstream media and our State Department is not telling us in reference to Russia and where they stand on certain issues. But also at the same time, I kind of was like, Tucker, going over there, obviously they're going to see you as a target. So when all of these attacks came towards Tucker Carlson and he had a follow-up interview and he said that he was surprised that his country was treating him this way, I was like, what did you expect to happen? You thought they were going to, clap or applaud you on the back? Like you went to talk to who they considered to be the enemy. But how did you feel about the interview?
Well, as somebody who's traveled to Russia to try and create peace and improve relations, and I know what happens when you do that. You come home and you're attacked viciously. I can say, Tucker, of course you were going to be attacked. You had to know this, and Tucker had to know it. Look, he's not stupid. He's a very smart guy. Let me start off again with a couple of things. One, Tucker and I have a history, and I've been very upfront about this history. It's a history that dates back to his time as a CNN host of, do you remember Crossfire? CNN's
Crossfire.
Crossfire.
You wore the bow tie?
Yes, on the left,
yeah.
On the right.
Yeah.
And I was a guest on Crossfire a lot during the lead up to the Iraq War. And on one particular event, we had Paul Begala on the left, Paul Begala, and on the right, Tucker Carlson. And so the interview is going okay. I had just published a book about, Endgame, about, how to solve the Iraq crisis once for all. And Paul Begala is, even though I was attacking the Clinton administration and he was a Clintonite, he was respectful. We had a discussion. We laid the facts out. I thought it was very productive. Tucker was sort of quiet. He would come in a little bit, but then at the end, as we're running out of time, because it's a timed event, this is before a live audience in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. And Tucker suddenly puts a quote up from the book, and he reads the quote, and he says, that contradicts everything you say. You're a hypocrite. You're this, that, and the other thing. And I said, Tucker, I wrote the book. The paragraph before this and the paragraph after, if you add it, brings context, and what you think you're reading isn't what you're reading at all. No, you're a hypocrite, and that's all the time we have. From the left, Paul God, from the right, and we're done. Boom, blah, 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 bam. And I'm sitting there going, you son of a... I stood up and I came to him and I said, I'm going to knock your teeth out in front of the whole crowd. I said, what you did is disgraceful. This isn't journalism. This was an ambush, and it's a dishonest ambush because you know damn well what was above it. You know what was below it. You're playing a game. I don't like this game. I'm going to beat the crap out of you right now. Security's grabbing me. Paul Begala saying, Scott, don't do it. Don't do it. And the crowds, yeah, because they knew what he did. It was scum, human scum. And they led me off. And ever since then, if you told me Tucker Carlson, I say, I hope I meet him in a bar someday because I will headbutt him and then kick him into the oblivion. He's the worst person in the world. And I despised Tucker Carlson. I hated him. And I watched him go into Iraq and play soldier boy, this little, I got to be careful what I say, but he's posing with his CNN security crew with an AK-47. Like, you've never fired an AK-47 in anger in your life, you little turd. Now you're posing like it's something big, and you're going in and bragging about how you're cutting off Iraqis at a gas station in their country where America's occupied it, and you're cutting them off from the gas they need to survive because you're what? A white American coming in and exercising your privilege, you spoiled little frat boy. And I hated him, despised him. I still get angry about this, but about a year and a half ago, I get a phone call from, Max Blumenthal, Gray Zone, and his lovely wife, Anya. She calls me up. She says, hey, Tucker Carlson wants to talk to you. I said, I don't want to talk to him. I said, well, no, I don't like this guy. She says, he knows that. He knows you don't. He actually wants to talk to you. He wants to talk to you about Russia, but he also wants to apologize because he knows what he did was wrong. And I said, what I said is that, I said, are you telling me the truth? And she said, yes. And I said, well, I'm not a vindictive person. I said, that's not the conversation. If he wants to talk about Russia, I don't want it to be an apology. I said, tell him that I accept his apology and we don't have to ever talk about it again. Well, he called up, he apologized anyways. He was very gracious, very gracious. And I didn't have to say anything. He knew exactly the incident that I was talking about. He knows why I was angry, and he understands the fury behind it. He said, I was so wrong. You were so right. I apologize. I said, okay, we're done. We never have to talk about this again. Let's talk about Russia. And we had a series of conversations about how the media is getting it wrong on Russia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, last summer, late summer, I knew I was coming back to Russia in December. I was asked by some senior Russian people if I could get Tucker Carlson to join me on this trip. And the idea would be that there would be an interview with Vladimir Putin involved in this. And I reached out. Tucker never responded because I think Tucker was already in contact with his source. I don't know. Tucker has to tell that story, how that happened. But when Tucker didn't respond, I put a bid in. I said, look, if Putin's on the table, I'd love to have a conversation with Vladimir Putin. And they took it. And what they came back was that the president's administration respects you, thinks, you're doing good work and all that. But neither Putin nor Medvedev will be giving interviews at this time because of the sensitivity of the upcoming American election, and they don't want to be seen as interfering with American politics. And I went, all right, there's the answer. So I have to tell you, when I came back from Russia and suddenly Tucker Carlson's in Russia getting an interview with Vladimir Putin, I am jealous as hell. I'm just going to be honest with you, okay? I wanted that damn interview, and Tucker Carlson got it. And I said right up front to everybody, I said, he can't do this interview. He doesn't know enough about Russia. He's not serious enough. He's not a Russian historian. He doesn't know Russian culture. He doesn't know the Russian heart. He won't ask the right questions. He won't ask the follow-on questions. He won't be able to put it in perspective. Anything Putin tells him, it's going to be a fiasco of an interview because he's going to come across as shallow and unprepared, and everybody will say, well, then you just gave Putin a platform, and you're all this kind of stuff. And that was my first response. But then I sat back because I am a very reflective person. I oftentimes will say things in the heat of the moment, and then I will sit down and open up a can of Diet Coke and take a sip and go, am I doing the right thing? Should I have said that? Was there something else I could have said? Am I taking the right approach? Let's take a step back. Let's calm down. Let's think about this. And I said, Scott Ritter interviewing Vladimir Putin. I may have generated couple 100,000 hits. Maybe I could have gotten a couple million hits on that. Would have been the biggest interview I ever did in my life. Maybe 10, 20 million people around the world would have seen this interview. But that's the only platform I can get. That's it. That maxes me out. Tucker Carlson is going to get 300 million minimum with the potential of 1 billion or more views. So I'm sitting there going, my whole reason for going to Russia is to educate the American people about Russia, to give Russia a voice in America, to listen to the Russians, then come back and talk about Russia so the Americans can say, oh, maybe they're not our enemy. Maybe Russia's not that bad. Maybe. And I said, so no matter what, Tucker Carlson is achieving what I'm trying to achieve, getting a Russian voice heard by 1 billion people. And right off the bat, that's a victory because it doesn't matter what Tucker says. In fact, Tucker is so irrelevant in this whole thing, it doesn't matter. Vladimir Putin gives speeches over and over. I would tell you this. I've been following Putin. This is another reason why I wanted this, because I was ready for this interview. But I've been following him since he became president. I've been listening to his speeches. I've been reading things. I've been watching the videos, looking at his body language, all that stuff. I was ready for this. But, nothing he said in this interview, with some minor exception, when they talk about specifics that are current, the currency of the discussion was good, like about Evan Gershowitz and things of that nature. But the Vladimir Putin's opinion on history, he's spoken about this before. Everything Vladimir Putin talked about with Tucker Carlson, he said before, but he said it in a forum that is denied to the American people. because the American people don't get to watch the Russian language interviews. The American people, most of them don't navigate through into the Kremlin website to get the transcripts of Putin's speech and then translate into English and then work their way through it with, a couple PhDs next to you to explain. When he says this, what's he talking about? Who's this Dostoevsky dude? Pushkin. I keep hearing Pushkin. Why is he important? The average American doesn't know but Vladimir Putin, anybody who follows him, the man knows his facts. There was I think it was a Polish leader that was talking about a discussion with Putin, and he said, I'm going to, maybe it was somebody from Estonia. I can't remember. He said, I'm going to throw Putin a curveball here. We're going to have a conversation, and I'm going to bring up an obscure Russian writer. And I just want to watch Putin go, oh. And he brought it up, and Putin went, yeah, but in his third novel, when you get to chapter 9, the writer starts talking about, this, that, and the other thing. But if you go back to the second novel, and the guy immediately realized that Putin is the quintessential Russian leader. And what that means is he is Russia. He knows Russia. He's absorbed Russia. You can't throw Putin off because he has studied this topic. He has his own twist to things. We all do. We all have our biases. So we can all read a history book and talk about it. I mean, if you and I read a history of the development of the United States, I bet you, even though we're both smart people, if we sat down and have a conversation, you'd have a different take and I'd have a different take because we come at it from different positions. There's nothing wrong with that. It's beautiful, in fact, because we can educate each other about our different perspectives. Putin has a perspective, and it's important that the world got to hear it. And it doesn't matter that the world isn't composed of PhD Russian experts who can sit there and automatically identify. You didn't have to know about Russian history to look at Putin's eyes. We all read people. We saw his expressions. We saw how he leaned back. We saw how he leaned in. We saw his eyes. We saw him move his hands. We saw his hand movements. We were reading the man because that's what we all do for a living. We read people, some of us better than others. But Vladimir Putin was exposed to a billion people who now are listening to him. And hopefully some of them, and even if it's only 10%, that's 100 million. I'm a Marine. I think the math is right. 100 million people, they're going to go in and start Googling what Putin said. Dostoevsky, The Russian Soul. The Brothers Karamazov. I might want to read that. The Grand Inquisitor. Holy cow. And now they've become educated. This is what I always wanted to do. Tucker did it. Home run out of the park. I mean, I didn't want to have to say this. I really wanted Tucker to fail because I wanted to say, nah, I could have done better. No, Tucker knocked it out of the park. He accomplished this, and I know he knows what he was doing. Tucker's a smart guy. He may not be a Russian expert, smart guy. And then he went around and he, when I was there in May, I did one of these cute little video things where I was in a market and I bought stuff for the road trip, and I had the guy ask me, how much would this have cost you in America? And I said, this would have cost me $36 and $36 to $40 in America. My daughter was there. Do you agree? Oh yeah, definitely. And it would have. We know it because we drive to New York City all the time. We stop in the gas station and we go in and we buy the snacks for the trip. Mm-hmm. We got $40 worth of stuff. It cost me $6 and change in Russia. I said, the prices are unreal. And they have everything. Literally, we were in the middle of nowhere. And this tiny little mini mart had everything. And you're just like, I thought this place is under sanctions. We went to cities where the economy is just thriving, full employment, cranes up, building everything. This is a nation under sanctions, and it's exploding. And I did this stuff, and I got maybe 20,000 views. Tucker Carlson pulls the most, just the cheesiest, stupid McDonald's thing, and this cheesy, stupid, and it worked. See, that's the genius of Tucker Carlson, because he knows how to package something for an American audience, for the American audience he's trying to reach, and he succeeded. So God bless Tucker Carlson. I think he did a great job. He's the only one that could have pulled this off the way it got pulled off, and he scared the living daylights out of the establishment. The media was in a panic. So was the government. This is why Navalny is such a big deal, because Navalny now has given ammunition to Tucker's, detractors, and they're starting to attack Jon Stewart. I mean, I used to love Jon Stewart. I have to be honest. I've been on his show. I was a guest once, and I used to watch it. I laughed. He's funny. But I watched what he did to Tucker, and I'm sitting there going, John, because I remember when Jon Stewart helped destroy Crossfire, helped destroy Tucker Carlson, because he went on as a guest. And I don't know what kind of language I'm allowed to use on your show, but he basically said that you're a dick.
Yeah, you're fine.
and Tucker Carlson like, well, I guess I am. But so Jon Stewart brought down Crossfire, terminated the show, and got Tucker Carlson kicked off of CNN. And so, he knows the game. Jon Stewart is a dick. What he did to Tucker in his show, saying that, yeah, food's more expensive in America. That's the price of freedom. No, John, it's not. It's the consequences of a bad economy. It's a consequence of bad leadership, which is the point that Tucker Carlson was trying to make. That if you have good leadership, you have a good economy, and people don't have to go bankrupt buying the basic necessities of life. And that makes you actually more free than the freedom that Jon Stewart's talking about. Because it's not free if Tucker Carlson expresses a point of view, speaks, and he gets attacked by everybody trying to have a chilling effect to suppress him, to deny him a voice. I just tell people, we live in America where free speech is everything. It's the cornerstone of everything we do. And the solution to speech you don't agree with is not suppression. The Supreme Court has said so. 1927 decision. Louis Brandeis was the justice, and he basically said that the solution to bad speech is free speech, more speech. Have better ideas. You and I can disagree on something. All right. The solution isn't for me to call everybody and say, no, shut Sabrina down, deplatform her, get her off. I don't want her. No. The solution is, Sabrina, let's talk. Let's talk so everybody can hear. I'm going to put my ideas on the table. And if I believe you have bad ideas, then it's my job to put better ideas out there. And your thing is, Scott, I disagree with you, but I'm not going to shut you up. I'm not going to say no. My thing is, I'm going to let Scott put his ideas on the table, and then I'm going to put better ideas on the table. That's what free speech is all about. It's right. Mechanism to empower people with knowledge and information so they become informed citizens so they can hold their elected representatives accountable for what they do in their name. But you can't do that if you're suppressing people. Jon Stewart is trying to suppress Tucker Carlson. The mainstream media is trying to suppress Tucker Carlson. Why? Because they're scared of what he did. They're scared. You can sit there and say you don't agree with Vladimir Putin, and that is your right. You can sit there and say I don't agree with anything Vladimir Putin said, and that is your right. But you should then thank Tucker Carlson for allowing Putin's voice to be heard, because it's the greatest opportunity you ever had. If you truly believe this, if you think Putin's an idiot, man, Putin just committed to a whole narrative that you get to pick apart. The solution to bad speech is free speech, more better speech, but nobody can do that. Nobody can stand toe to toe with Putin. They don't want to do that because they don't have the ammunition. So their solution is to suppress what Tucker Carlson did, to make it somehow bad, to make it un-American, to make it unattractive. The mainstream media didn't say, go ahead and watch Tucker's interview and then we'll talk about how bad it was. They said, don't watch it.
Yeah.
Watch it. That's not American, man. It's not the American way.